conversations black people aren't ready to. A lot of y'all are Republicans. Very pro.
It's time for More Than One Talk, where we have conversation about the fifth dimension. Conversations black people are uncomfortable with having. Let's talk. The stigma about single mother households being the destruction of the family household, when statistically the children who often end up abused in foster care are actually with the single father, or when the father marries a new woman, and that usually results in the children statistically going into more foster care. The entire narrative that the onus of failure of our children is on single black parents, mothers specifically, when actually statistically it would be fathers who marry new women or new spouses in general. Funny. People deciding that they don't want to raise their children because they think that, people who didn't ask to be here should be thankful for you taking care of something that you didn't ask if it wanted to be here or not. Something black people don't want to talk about. What about the rampant sexual abuse of little black boys that goes so undocumented, yet when you look at a lot of these violent, hyper-masculine men, it often comes from some level of sexual exploitation when they were younger, and they're trying to exert their dominance to never be vulnerable again. You don't know how many of my homeboys I have known who have been molested and or raped when they were younger and grew up to be violent as hell at any given moment, because that feeling of weakness, it terrifies them. Antoine Fisher actually talked about it in the movie, and surprisingly, we always focus on, and rightfully so, the exploitation of children, specifically little girls, but little boys are often left to the wayside when it comes to the black community in particular. Or how black boys are just very sexualized, and we don't even talk about how sexualized we are. Think about it like this. We're encouraged to boys be boys when it comes to being promiscuous and giving our bodies to any woman that shows us attraction. A mother will laugh it off. Look at you. At least you're not gay. Because, sexual irresponsibility is, more important than just you being comfortable in your preference in general. But the irony that they don't realize that you rampantly trying to sleep with everything shows the level of often instability in your idea of what your sexual identity is. We teach black boys to not value their bodies enough to be able to say, hey, I don't have to sleep with everything just because my other head is saying I should do so. Black boys are encouraged to react in a certain way when it comes to being approached by women, because we are taught that the advantage of women in any way we should be open to, even if it's inappropriate, even if it's a time from someone we don't want. Oftentimes from older women when we were younger, and we were taught as younger kids that that'd be something we'd be fond of. Do you know how many young boys actually fantasize about a teacher trying to sleep with them? Imagine that. See, little girls realize that an older man shouldn't be talking to them at a certain age, and they have to be groomed to think that's normal. But do we talk about the grooming that little boys go through in this country? Most of us are groomed in a certain behavior, misogyny. We're groomed to view women in a certain way. We're groomed to see society in a certain way, oftentimes by not just the media, but by our parents. And not by our parents, but by the environment our parents bring us around. Never had to learn how to think of women as just sexual objects between fathers, homeboys, homies, brothers. Hell, media, everything I consumed groomed me into a particular type of thinking when it came to women. Speaking of grooming, consciousness is not the way to just escape the evils of society and waking up to the matrix. In fact, a lot of you go into consciousness and get deeper in the matrix than you realize. We don't want to talk about that. A lot of these religious black institutions and movements oftentimes came at the cost of the exploitation of children. And if you don't believe me, just ask Africa Bambaataa or Malachi York and Polite. Because for some reason, we allow these conscious guys to play, patriarch to families that, they're not a part of, impregnate a bunch of children in this community, proclaim themselves to be the son of God, and we don't believe in the Bible, but we believe in, these other guys claiming to be the reincarnated Haru or nature boys. And, they use our spirituality to weaponize us, but we often don't talk about how it is black people who weaponize spirituality against other black people. The instant that you go against spirituality, mainly Baptist, Southern Christians, you're immediately flamed. You'll be ostracized. I got fired from a job just because I said I practice African spirituality. So I'm wondering when black people are going to talk about that as far as spiritually. We're deeply conservative. Like Shorty said, we're conservative as God fuck. Like, we don't like conservatives because I think conservatives remind us of our own views just from white people. And it sounds terrifying from white people, but not realizing how terrifying and stupid it sounds coming from niggas. Like, when are we gonna stop selling capitalism to us as the savior to our fucking society? When do we realize that they destroyed the Black Panthers not because they made a lot of money, because they realized the system itself is the goddamn problem? You want to stop crime, stop poverty. But who suffers from poverty? The people who get these private contracts to develop weapons and equipment for the police. The police gets money from the city to be the people protecting a crime rate that they don't really alleviate because poverty creates crime. They don't want to have these talks, and they don't want to talk to us about it because they don't give a fuck. As long as niggas is killing niggas, they're satisfied. Including us. Say I'm not. NWA wants to act like they're not responsible for the new generation. Yes, the fuck you are. And the rest of you niggas from the 90s as well. You want to talk about how Biggie Smalls and DMX will openly talk about raping girls that were under 15 just for the sake of revenge? And we were like rapping to that shit? Dead wrong. X is coming. I love you, man, but that was a problem. Like, now the NWA discussion happens, so that's really fascinating to me personally, because Exhibit wants to threaten the guy who said it, and Ice Cube of course says crack was already here, but bro, I want to be clear here, and I think we can be adults, bro. They came out in '88 and they were literally pushed by the industry, that imagery, and Fuck the Police was cool, but when Ice Cube left and they were being pushed as a group, the political awareness left, and NWA was still celebrated as a rap group during that bullshit. They're not going to get exclusive blame. Like, we're going to look at the 90s as well. We're going to look at Honest. We're going to look at a bunch of these other groups, the Mobb Deeps. We're going to go there. We're going to go there. We're going to look at Dipset. We're going to look at everybody else that was selling crack, that was slapping and pimping bitches. All y'all were rapping about it. All of you. Even when y'all wasn't about none of that shit y'all was talking about. And y'all sold lies. Mystical tales of street violence to youngins that emulated y'all. Then y'all had real gangsters who could not rap creatively, so y'all sold it on the fact that they're really about the shit they rap about. And for 20 years y'all did that, and you wonder why these young niggas is killing each other and filming it for the sake of saying, I'm smoking on this pack or that pack. No one wants to take responsibility for that. We can blame the system all day, but Ice Cube, you were in college, and you were still rapping about calling girls all types of bitches and hoes, like the same vitriol, disrespect. And mind you, you're still the same man that watched Dr. Dre beat the shit out of Dee Barnes, and to this day, she's still blacklisted. Like, y'all never apologized for that. Ever. Nah, bro. Y'all were a problem. And a lot of other groups that glorify gang violence and that imagery, yes, y'all are responsible, bro. You're not going to avoid culpability in the fact you played a hand. Exhibit, respectfully, you didn't have to say anything because no one knows you, bro. Like, you were around, we respect you, but if it wasn't for Pimp My Ride, bro, 2/3 of the world would have never we would have never even realized you were from the West. Nigga, you from New Mexico. Stop. Yes, you old 90s niggas are responsible for this new generation. I don't want to hear Sexy Red and Sukiyana complaints because y'all was show fans of My Neck and My Back and Little Kim talking about everybody jumping here like a porn star and all the shit she used to rap about that Biggie used to write. Now mind you, Biggie was already rapping about giving fellatio because a girl's so pretty, then he was writing raps about fellatio and other sexual activities. Like, what are we talking about? Don't get me started on you rapist ass niggas that was all in Freaknik and shit that used to like chase girls down for wearing mini skirts and like rip their clothes off and assault them, and like the police had to be called. Y'all don't want to really have a conversation about y'all generation because Kool G Rap never got checked for the fact that he was low-key a child molester when he was talking to Superhead. Or a lot of you, for that matter, because she was young as hell. Y'all don't want to talk about